Call to order the Lowell City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, February 15th at 7 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Councilor Harris,
Here.
Councilor Weathers.
Here.
Councilor Stratus is absent.
We do have a quorum. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item up is approval of the agenda. Mr. Cottle, do you have anything?
I made one change to the agenda as of today, and that is to delete the financial report for December. That the financial report for December is not yet available.
Okay. We'll bring it out next month. Okay, anything else by anybody? In that case, the consent agenda has the check register for January 2022, approval of minutes for February 4th, 2022, approval of the minutes for January 18th, 2022 meeting, and approval of the minutes for the January 26th, 2022 meeting. Does anybody want to take anything out to look at? Do we have a motion to accept?
Approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Maureen and Gail to approve. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Agenda is set. Consent agenda is done. Public comments. We have anything? Oh, Jim, you want to say anything?
Oh, no. So, don't know, state representative, sometimes hard to recognize each other with mask, and had the opportunity to serve in this local area. I live 2 or 3 miles that way. You don't know that, on Old Finger Road. So for the last 4 terms, I've had the opportunity to serve this area, and I go to a little over a dozen of the city council meetings. I haven't been here in quite a while from the pandemic and all those kind of things, but those are reopening. I always encourage folks to get a hold of us. We do maintain an office 40 hours a week, that staff answering phones, and we deal with a lot of constituents issues, and I can't solve those problems for you. But what I can do is get you with the agency that will hopefully work with you to help on that from a municipality standpoint. You know, if you got, we've done a lot of ARPA funds on infrastructure and water treatment plants, things like that. So if you got needs out there, let us know. We don't know if we don't know if we don't know. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And in years past, I have dealt with this staff. Great people. Just great people. So
Thank you.
any council comments at this point? Any other public comments? Yes, Jeannie, please.
We come to kind of talk about the ordinance,
Uh-huh.
this noise ordinance,
Okay.
due to the fact that what's happened a couple weeks ago, and it's happened in the past also,
Mhm.
of animals being killed, trying to escape the noise of somebody deciding to shoot off fireworks, not during firework time, but just whenever they feel like they have to move. And it happened this week ago, Saturday, at between 7 and 7:30 at night, and we ended up with, I know 2 dogs hit, one was killed. And these dogs have always been inside and controlled, but just happened, they got out. Mine has done that in the past. I had one jump a 3-foot fence to get away from that kind of noise. And the one I have now hid in my bathroom during that half an hour time when we go Saturday. And I know there's other people that have animals that have that problem, but I just feel that since we do have an ordinance against these voices and everything, that if these people are family,
Mhm.
I feel they should be responsible for the costs endured by these people that lost their animals. One of them was a service animal. Service animal to her mom, because her mom was ill and that's what's kept her going. And this was very devastating to them. And so I think, you know, that hate to have stool pigeons and tattletales, guys. These animals are frightened. I've talked to some other people, and you know, if you know when it's going to happen, you get a thundercoat, you give them something. But when it just happens, at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, while you're in the middle of having dinner, and all of a sudden your animals are freaked out and hiding through your house and shaking for an hour. It's not fair. And if something happened, like it did the dogs did get out, and mine was found when he jumped the fence. He ran clear to 58. Luckily, he got from the forest for the sign, jumped your truck, and he jumped in. And she had to go 3 days till she relocated. But I mean, he'd always been in the yard. He's always been in the house, but he was panicked. And he jumped my fence like that and then down to 158. I thought he was dead. Because he was not a runner, run away from home. But I just feel it needs to be addressed in the city. Needs to realize that these people need to be held accountable for their actions, for the people that have lost them. And there's also people that have PTSD. I know that don't help them any either. And when you, all of a sudden you're sitting there, all of a sudden you have rounds going off of walking in your house, and I know they're in this general area, because that's where it's coming from. So, anyway, that was-
Thank you, Jenny. Can I get your address for the record?
I'm at 263 North Pioneer.
Okay, thank you.
I also wanted to-
Yes.
I'm Janice Lickett.
Okay,
And I also wanted to mention that Jesse Osborne posted it on Neighborhood Watch for everybody telling them how to calm your dogs and how to do this, but you can't do it 24/7. You know, and also she got so many horrible comments, horrible comments. It's the people who don't care. Don't care. It's a family member you've lost, you know, and they just like, oh, well, keep your dog tied up, do this. No, you've got to obey the ordinance. It's got to be enforced.
Okay.
And it's not enforced.
okay, I didn't get your name and address.
My name's Gay Weaver,
Okay,
and I live right now in Little Fall Creek, but I've lived in Lowell. I've
Okay.
been around here since '62.
okay, thank you, thank you. Maybe something over whether in the bridge or something like that, an article or something to follow up on it, so.
Well, I'm not sure what our noise ordinance is, but maybe we can review that.
Sure, and one suggestion that I would make, Mr. Mayor, if I may, is whenever there are noise issues, if folks could report it to us. We recently had a really, really bad noise issue, and it resulted in us citing the person causing the disturbance, and that solved that issue. So if there are noise issues and folks report it to us, we will act on it.
Mr. Hall?
Paul Regan, 62 East Third. I concur with everything you have said. Thank you all. I don't have a dog, but I have a cat. You have a cat. And the cat does get freaked out. And I have post-traumatic stress. And I can only take so much of that stuff. So it's a real issue.
Yeah.
It is.
Like I say, what he said, bring it in, and the person got cited, so we'll continue to do that.
It's difficult to find out where they're coming from,
I
but
know. We can,
That's the thing, you know,
they can
it's
investigate.
right in this area.
Yeah. I understand that.
Can I ask a quick question? I mean, fireworks are fireworks, and that's a problem, period. But were these, like
The first weekend.
the fancy fireworks, or were they just the?
They're the boomers. They were the big boomers. There's about a dozen of them.
The last ones were more like the tannerite. They're like the tannerite booms.
Yeah, I
And
get
those
that.
went on for like
I get that in my neighborhood. That's so loud. It
And it's
isn't even.
not.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not.
right in this area.
Down that way.
Okay.
You can see
I was
it.
just curious because it might be, I don't know, we'll have to talk about how the noise ordinance works, but
Well, it needs something needs to happen.
yeah.
Yeah, somebody, if you have
family
any
member.
cattle tails or whatever,
I'm not even
somebody
sure that
knows
those
how
are
to
illegal.
get ready to.
Yeah, I think it's a different ordinance.
Except
The
for
noise
the-
ordinance doesn't go into effect until 10 o'clock.
That's what I was gonna say, we have to figure something out there. But illegal fireworks, you know, some of those, I think some of those have to be illegal if they're making that kind of noise and all they are is like, you know.
Tannerite isn't illegal, I called it. that time.
Okay,
And because it was at my house in Fall Creek and they were shooting off, there's nothing to do about it. But in city limits, they should be able to do something about You can buy Tannerite.
Okay.
Target practicing, but in city limits, it should.
They also make trips to Washington.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. If,
Yeah.
You know,
Big one.
just understanding for the point of what we can and can't do and how we can approach it.
Number one, you have to find the people.
Yeah.
And shoot 'em.
That'd be my opinion too, I got it.
Well, now that we got that solved.
Yeah. Well, that was easy.
Take care of it.
I'll clarify 56
Yeah.
days first.
Okay.
Okay, then next up is the city administrator's report. Mr. Cottle, you want to lead that off?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start off with a brief summary of the library renovation project. I'd like to pull up something very quickly. Okay. So I was informed last week that our Full Family Foundation grant application was approved in the amount of $191,466. Our loan for Business Oregon was approved, and all of the funding sources that we needed to start the City Hall and Library project have been secured. And we have a summary here. We have total funding sources of $548,831. Our architect has a cost estimate of $515,832. And here is a project schedule that he has put together. It shows us on February the 24th, soliciting construction bids from contractors. We'd have a pre-bid meeting on Thursday, March the 3rd. Building would be made available on March the 10th. Bidding closes on March 17th. After that point, we open the bids. And at a subsequent city council meeting, we would be presenting that to you for approval, and we would have a contractor hired. Things are going to start moving very quickly. And I wanted to have the opportunity to have a conversation with the city council. If you have any remaining questions or concerns about this project before we take this to the next step. Or does everybody feel pretty good about it? So
I read on here with Penny Hummel that I guess that's, you're not there yet, but I jumped ahead. Says has some sources for grant funding. Are they going to be applying for that now or more towards the end when it's constructed?
no, we're going to start. We have a few meetings and contacts already set up.
Okay.
And we're going to look at pursuing those grants to fund our opening collection, as well as laptops and other amenities.
Good.
So we are pursuing that right now.
And that's not included in your breakdown up there.
That's
That would-
correct.
That would
Everything,
be outside of that.
everything in this breakdown is for capital.
But what the grants that we might be getting through her isn't included in the funding sources yet.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Would you say the total project cost is estimated to be right at this time?
$515,832.
When was that last updated?
This was developed in December and we've been working off of it since then. He's adjusted some things to stay within that. Like instead of having 5-foot windows, he's put it down to 4 feet.
Thank you.
Okay. If there no further questions, I'll keep moving on that
Okay.
as quick as I can. And I'll keep the council updated on it. Penny Hummel's going to be here tomorrow to meet with the volunteers, and we're going to work out a plan on how to manage our current collections, which includes how to, what to do with our current books, what we can possibly resell to the community or give away, and what we're going to keep.
Go ahead.
A question on that.
Sure.
You told me, oh gosh, it's been a couple months now, that you do have the checkout system for the library.
Yes.
That was up and running. I'm still interested in kind of looking at that, and I'm hoping they are too, to kind of figure out the weeding, because if something has been held for 8 years and hasn't been, or 6 years and hasn't ever been checked out, that might be high on the list of weeding.
Yes.
And then what would be nice is to find out what is moving, and then we can solicit more of that, rather than just fill the shelves with stuff that has never left the shelves.
I don't think that's the intent, even with the ones, if you go in there now, they're going through them and they've got a pretty good pile of books that that aren't gonna be put out. They've already screened through a bunch of them, so.
And you're not taking any more in right at the moment.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah, because I see people on Facebook always say, yeah, the library's big, and it's like, no, I'm cleaning out garages at this time.
That's correct. I do have that report. I know you want to take a look at it, and I'll get it to you for sure. Moving on to the parks projects, I had a meeting with the local government grant program representative, as well as the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant representative, and I included our landscape architect in that. We're going to try one more time to pursue the LGGP money so that we can have a 100% grant funded project for Rolling Rock Park. The deadline for that is around April or so. And we're also going to look at our cost estimate and update that accordingly. On the East Main Street property,
You have 440,000, and I know we're looking at a $240,000 grant. So is the project going to be 240,000? Is that what it is, or 440,000?
you know, the 440,000 was the original number.
Right.
And then they bumped up our LWCF grant to 240, so it would actually be closer to 480.
The grant?
The total project
I mean, for
cost.
the grant?
It's a 50% match to this two.
Yeah, but-
So one grant would be 240,000, another would be 240,000.
Okay, so we're looking at 2 grants. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
On the East Main Street property, I'm looking at extending our loan that we have outstanding with Government Capital Corporation.
Good idea.
Just in case the environmental remediation takes longer than the due date of September 2022, I'll be bringing that back to you. The phase 2 assessment is included later on your agenda. A few other items.
Is the interest rate locked in on that, or will this extension open that window up?
I think I don't know. I'll have to ask them about
Because we
that.
just got word that interest rates are climbing significantly in the next 2.5 weeks. Making a big difference for some schools.
I don't know if it'll be like a new loan or if they'll just be extending it and all the terms of other terms will be the same. I can find out and let you know.
Yeah, because if the interest rates are going up, I don't know, maybe we want to extend, that's kind of a gamble, but
Just need to know, eyes wide open,
yeah.
what we're getting into.
Okay, a few other items. The city clerk will be doing some training at the headquarters for our finance software provider from March 7th to March 10th. During that time frame, if there are no objections from the council, I'd like to close the city hall to walk-ins unless somebody makes an appointment. We'll still answer the phone calls, process utility payments, respond by email, and so on. The Blackberry Jam Committee is having some additional meetings on the 22nd and March the 8th to determine if they're going to hold any events this year. We do have 3 volunteers who have stepped up to lead the event planning. The Parks Committee has been meeting, and they have a few more meetings scheduled to develop a to-do list for the parks, and they'll be bringing that back to you. We have a council planning retreat scheduled for February the 26th. I turned in the building code updates that SB 866 required. So our program is, our third-party building program is good through 2026. The right-of-way for this current property, I'm working with the county on that. They should be dropping that off at the title company this week for me to sign it and transfer title to us. The survey and partition work, the field work is done, and the engineer is working on getting the partitioning started for this campus, for Rolling Rock Park, for the City Hall, in preparation for sale. And lastly, the City Council applications for the vacancy are due on February the 18th, and so far I don't have any turned in. So if that remains the case, we may have to open that up again. What questions do you have for me?
Blackberry Jam, right now, what I understand is they're trying to do a 1-day event on Saturday. I mean, that's their hope, and it's gonna be not the last weekend like it normally is. It'd be the next, like the 24th of July.
Correct.
If
I
I,
think they're looking at doing the quilt show on the 16th, 17th.
the quilt show
Do they know
16,
that?
17. Yeah. I don't know.
I thought they had picked the same days. Well,
Okay.
okay.
Oh, Blackberry Jam.
Yeah.
I'm getting
I heard 24, so if you heard 16, 17, I'll take it back and have them, somebody talk to somebody.
Okay.
And you'll be talking to people before, probably myself even. Okay. Anything else for Jeremy? If not, Public Works, Max, you have something, please?
Yep, just a few updates. Staff report and thing, couple updates on Rolling Rock Park. So we're still waiting on the quote for the fencing for the stage. We discussed a while back. I've called twice now, still everybody's super busy, so I'll get that. We do have the bathrooms open back up. We got the plumbing repaired to it, but the issues at the park still continue to be a daily issue. Not with garbage, it's garbage standard, it's not a big deal, but the vandalism and other minor things. But other than that, I have no other updates. As soon as we get the fence stuff, I'll present to council. One other thing I did want to mention, we don't know the exact date, but they did cut the fence at the water treatment plant again. Nothing was taken, reviewed the cameras, we've done a thorough investigation of the plant. I mean, even down to, broken tools that we put in the scrap pile. Nothing was taken, so we came to the conclusion after speaking with the officers that possibly, excuse me, possibly they were attempting to steal the fuel again, which was the issue last time. But we put locking devices on all the fuel in the vehicles, so the same company that fixed the fence last time is the company we're waiting for on the bid for the stage, removal fencing, so we can still hold the fence, so. Something changes on that. Nothing was stolen, so that's a good thing, and nobody entered the building. So yeah, they cut the chain link fence in 2 different spots.
Last week, or last month, you were putting in meters, how that didn't come along still?
Yeah, we put another 64 meters in.
Okay, so that's about half of the total we bought.
We were just over half, we have 20 meters left out of the 100. So Hunter and the guys have really been going good. I'm gonna meet with Lowell this week and look at our finances outside of the new subdivisions because they're not capital. And hopefully be able to come back to you guys before the end of the year with an additional CIP. So
That's good to hear.
Yep.
Any questions for, yes,
Are the cameras in Rolling Rock Park activated?
they are, but we do not have a camera specifically pointed at the stage. So we have the east and west facing ones, and then we have the ones on the actual restroom, which face north, east, and west. So the one on the restroom by the caboose catches a little bit of activity, but not near what we need to we've had many investigations, with the sheriff's department over the years on different issues. But yeah, and we have signs posted, so most people know there's cameras there. So most of the activity happens in that blind spot where the janitorial closet or on the backside, you know, by the parking lot field. So, yeah.
Should we think about getting additional?
We talked about putting some on the backside of the building, specifically since we do own that portion of the park now. We didn't own it when we put up originally, so we didn't want to try it on somebody else's property. So, and we did buy expandable DVRs, and we bought them so they could take up to 16 cameras, and currently there's only 6 on there. So
The
yeah,
other
we
thing, I talked with
discussed
a
that.
buddy of mine that worked in parks for his career, and they, I don't know what the technical thing was, but they had a feed to where, basically anybody could log in, and so a lot of the neighbors to the parks up there, this was up in Washington, were able to, you know, they could see something going on, and then they would get on right away instead of having to wait until everything was all over and whatever, because neighbors usually have the best
Right.
interest in
Right.
somebody in the neighborhood. Have you considered that at all? Has anybody ever looked at that?
I don't think so. We talked about, you know, the cameras at the parks, this park specifically are local, you know, they're not shop deliver or anything because we don't currently have internet there. We have talked about putting internet to state, not only for events that we hold, you know, but for to have Wi-Fi for people sitting at the park later down. So we thought about shooting the feed to City Hall, but as you know, that's only good between, you know, 8 and 6. So it's definitely something we can look into, and yeah, it's a possibility. We'll just have to look into it. I can get with Jeremy, we can have some discussion
He
about it.
said they set up a unique IP address for the camera, each camera, and put a link on the Parks and Rec homepage, and that's how they.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get more information, I'm sure.
Okay.
Whatever you need, but I thought it was a great idea because that's how people find stuff is, you know, you're in your house, you're seeing somebody walking by, especially if you read Facebook around here, you know, people are pretty aware of what's happening out their front door, so.
The original ordinance that we put up with that restricted, I think city administrators pretty
Or
much the
law
main one
enforcement.
that can look at it. So there would need, there's an ordinance that says who can look at it, who can't. So we'd have to bring something back to alter that, adjust it or expand it.
I don't know if they
Go in
have
that
to look at
direction.
it. The idea would be to report, right?
Or make it unique, you know, maybe to the parks cameras only,
Yeah.
you know, excluding the water plant, sewer plant, City Hall.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would have to look, or we'll definitely have a discussion about it. but-
It just sounded like a really good way to.
No,
put more
I'm not
eyes to
disagreeing
the-
with, I agree with you. I think
I
it's
got
a
a big
good thing.
spotlight, you know, we heard some down on, what
Yeah.
is it, you know, you
Yeah.
put that thing out there.
Yeah, so, you know, you got all these traffic cameras and everything that's up and showing how things are that, I think it makes a good idea. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation during it for sure. I think it's a good idea. I really do. Because you know, neighborhood watch, whatever you want to call it, is, you know, a lot of the information that we receive outside of our normal business hours is from the public. You know, we're not here like 9 hours, 10 hours a day. So, yeah.
But possibly just have it as a continual running on the website that we have, something like that. Like I say, we'd have to come back.
Kind
and
of like
make
a
some
police
changes, but
scanner without video type of thing, you know.
Yeah.
see what we can do.
Good.
Okay,
Any other
thank you.
questions? Thank you.
And you see the police report there, I see 75 hours, and I see some 4, 5s, and 6-hour blocks, which I think is wonderful. I don't think they'll probably continue that. But I like the idea of 75 hours, and they still charge us the same. So that's my only thought. Okay, now we're an old business up to new business presentation by Susan Hardy. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
And it's, you can come up here and sit. And she's with the 90 by 30 East Lane County Region.
Right. 90 by 30 is an organization that was put together out of the University of Oregon, whose goal is to decrease child abuse by 90% by 2030. We started like in 2013, so we're running a little bit behind. But we're working on it. Pandemic hasn't helped any.
Thank you.
Sure. Lane County statistics show that 1 in 3 adults in Lane County have experienced child abuse or neglect in their lives. That's 103,000 of our adult neighbors who have experienced child abuse or neglect. 23,000 Lane County children and youth have experienced child abuse and neglect.
Are these updated for the latest peaks with COVID issues?
I don't think our statistics are that up to date. No, this is before COVID.
Yeah, This is like 3 or 4 years ago.
They are fairly recent, because the next thing I was going to talk about is OCAPS, which is the Oregon Child Abuse Prevalence Study, which is put on through the University of Oregon also. And this shows that 29.2% of high school students who took part in the study, they've gone to high schools in Lane County. This program is only in Lane County. The idea being that we would take a place, a big place, Lane County. I'm gonna take those off because otherwise they get foggy. And we would gather, first we did surveys and gathered all that data. And as we work, we would gather the data from the strategies that we put in place. And at the end of all of this, the goal would be to be able to take this information that we would have gained during this process, pick it up and put it wherever anybody wanted this project, and they could follow the same steps and get the same results that we did. That was the original goal. So the OCAP study is part of that. And 29.2% of the high school students who have taken part in the study have experienced at least one type of sexual assault. 14% have experienced 3 or more types. 52% of Lane County children have experienced at least one type of physical assault, and nearly 1% of Lane County students have never shared their trauma with anyone at any time. These are results of the OCAP study, going into high school and doing surveys with kids, confidential of course, and taking their data and putting this together. And this is within the last couple of years. This study's coming. 90 by 30's goal is to get ahead of the problem, to stop abuse before it starts by preventing sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, and domestic violence. So we listened to what people had to say and we became ultra local. We divided Lane County on our map into 7 regions. We conducted surveys to gather information from the community members all over the county to understand what our communities think we need to do about child abuse. We learned that Lane County residents believe that child abuse and neglect can be prevented when kids are connected, families are supported, and community members take action. We held numerous community assessment meetings in each of the regions. They were done by region. East Lane County, the region that I'm the coordinator for, is from Pleasant Hill, Jasper, Fall Creek, Dexter, Lowell, all the way to Oak Ridge. All of that is in the East Lane region. We conducted surveys in that region specifically, held these meetings specifically in communities throughout our region, and to determine what things our communities thought of the strategies that we had listed available to us, what we might use. And so the first one that we implemented in Lane County has been a tremendous success. It's in at least 30 of our, that's Roots of Empathy. It's in 30 of our first grade classrooms in Lane County. This program increases empathy in children, decreases aggressive behavior in children, increases acts of compassion and kindness among children. This program was originated in Canada. It's in places throughout the world. It's right here in Lowell, it's in Oak Ridge, it's in schools throughout Lane County. The biggest success in all of the in all of the regions is the Lowell Roots of Empathy. In Oak Ridge, we have a Roots of Empathy class in each first grade class. In Lowell, we had one in their first grade class. This year, Lowell added a second Roots of Empathy class in the sixth grade classroom. Nobody anywhere else in Lane County has done that. So this is the success right here. And that's due to the community and the people doing the work on that. The next thing we implemented was the Welcome Baby. We called it the Welcome Baby Box. It was a box after like what was in, where was it, Kat? Where did it start? In
Australia.
I'm not sure where it started, but anyhow, it was in Denmark. Which is a ways away from Australia, but, and they were trying to find a solution to sudden infant death syndrome. And what they did was they created a box that was a bed for a baby, a newborn baby. And the baby sleeps in that box. They have no blankets, no toys, nothing in the box, but nothing but this box with a little mattress and a little sheet pad on it. And it was tremendously successful in fighting SIDS. So in looking at a safe sleep system for a baby, 90 by 30 decided to use that same product, and we call it the Welcome Baby Box. And we have a group of people in the East Lane region who reach out to any parent of a new child when a new child is going to be born. Our timeline is 3 weeks before the baby is born, up to 3 weeks after the baby is born. That box is delivered then. Now we've changed some, not everybody wants a box. Some people already have a sleep system for their child that they believe is safe. So I have a bag sitting on the back. It's like a diaper bag with all of the things that were in the box when we used to give out just the box. We still have the boxes available for people who have or want a sleep system for the baby. This there diaper bag for the sleep system, tummy time quilt made by community members, baby caps that contain at least 50% purple for newborn babies, and the purple being because one of the things that we include in the gift to parents is a video for the period of purple crying. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. I wish I had known it when my children were young. I don't think anybody had heard of it then. They're babies, and they say that all babies go through this period of time sometime early in their like up to 6 months or so, where they cry for no apparent reason. They've been fed, they've been changed, they've been comforted, and they just cry. And what we have learned over time is that those are the periods of time when the shaken baby syndrome might be likely to happen, because you could get very frustrated if you couldn't get a baby to quit crying. And so the period of purple crying video that we include in every Welcome Baby bundle, we view that with the parents when we deliver the box and we talk about it. That's to help prevent shaken baby syndrome or other types of abuse, and to understand that babies go through periods of time where they cry for no reason. And it's very frustrating when you're a parent and you love your child and they can't make it quit crying no matter what you do. Having been there, I can say that's true. And when my kids were little, as I said, nobody had heard of period of purple crying. But he offers tips of what to do. The biggest one, of course, is to lay them in the bed and go away and leave them alone, and you get rid of your own frustration away from that baby. Now, there's a resource binder that's also included all in the bag or in the baby box. To go along with the Welcome Baby Box, we implemented a foster grandparents program, and the foster grandparents in East Lane are people who they deliver the box. And the goal is to make a connection with those families so that later they will contact that family again, and they'll contact that family on down the road, so that a family with a newborn baby who may not have lots of connections as a parent to other parents or other people who would be of assistance to them if they had problems, that those people act as that person and step in and they're ready to behave like a grandparent, except that we agree that we don't babies. But although some of us think we'd like to do that. And currently, we're working on expanding the foster grandparents program in East Lane. To have it include programs where adults who just have say a skill or a talent or something that they would like to share with kids, that they could teach kids to bake cookies, they could teach kids to knit, in separate groups over time. Another strategy that's currently in Lane County, but not specifically in East Lane, is Parent Cafe, and it's a parenting class, that parenting education program that's implemented in Eugene at this time. Safe Families is one we're working on, and that's one that is a partnership with Christians as Family Advocates, CAFA, and it's a faith-based program. Try saying that fast.
Yeah.
Faith-based program where you have families who have agreed to act as respite or act as people who would step in, sometimes even to the point of if a mom or a dad is struggling with addiction and needs to go into treatment, that all these families have been vetted so that we know they're families who are safe for kids to be with. But they could take that baby for the period, that child for the period of time that parent would be in recovery, to give that parent time to do the work they need to do and then come back to their family and have their family still be whole without getting caught up in what often seems to be the red tape of having needed, say, welfare to step in. It would be in lieu of welfare. It would be a helping thing to help families with problems. We're working on having trauma-informed schools. We've 90 by 30 created a little film series, which is called What Would We Do, Lane County? And it shows instances where one is like there's a mom with two little kids riding a bus, and the kids are getting fussy, and the mom gets upset, and then how would we, as somebody watching that, possibly step in and say or do something that would help that parent with that problem, instead of just what most of us do is avoid doing anything because we don't know what to do. And what could we do? What would be a good thing to do? 5,000 Strong was launched last year. The quote is, it only takes one person to make an impact, but it takes 5,000 to make a change. 5,000 to support 5,000 people to support the 90 by 30 initiative. We're asking for financial support wherever that's possible, a donation, or we have people who are doing house parties to raise funds for 90 by 30. We ask people to share information with their neighbors or their communities about what they know about 90 by 30 and how they might help. Post and repost on Facebook and Instagram. There's a website. You probably can't see this clear across the room, but it's on the form I gave you. It tells you what the website is. It's No More Lane County. And if you enter nomoreLaneCounty.org, you get a screen that looks like this, only bigger. And at the top, it has things where you can check, and there are places, in there you can, what can I do? And it has all kinds of, by category, like if you're a doctor, what could a doctor do that would be a good thing as perhaps a volunteer? If you're a school teacher, what things could you volunteer to do so there's all kinds of things to offer. Help if you want to be a partner in fighting child abuse. That was pretty clear. Anybody got any questions?
I'll contact you about putting an article in the Bridge, their local newsletter.
Yeah.
I've done the April, but I didn't know about these new initiatives, so it's been a long time since
Yeah,
we said.
Yeah,
what
the
is-
last couple years has been pretty tough on us, not, for instance, how do you find babies, women who are going to have babies if you can't be out in the community meeting people? I mean, I was always famous in Oak Ridge, I live in Oak Ridge, for, we'd be at a basketball game and I'd see a pregnant mom and I'd
Start
start
stalking
talking
her.
to her.
I do that for the imagination library.
Yeah, see, right, I mean, it's just automatic, and people would go, there she goes, she's going after that pregnant mom. Because then I would go to that mom and I would say, so I'd see, you're gonna have a baby, we have a gift for you, if you'd be interested, and then I talk to them, but when you have as little public contact as we've had in the last couple of years, those things get sort of lost. And so I know that all of us are ready for this pandemic to be over and get back to being out there in our communities and doing all the stuff we always have done.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I know the school in the past has had the purple spinners out, so.
Yeah, we always, in April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we always have pinwheel gardens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is follow-up discussion on policing services. Mr. Collins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll pull something else up. There we go. I'm asking for city council direction tonight on the next steps that you'd like to take on the law enforcement services topic. In January, you heard from two agencies, the Sheriff's Office and the Oak Ridge Police Department. We've also followed up on the suggestion regarding private security services. I've reached out to 4 companies. I've received a response from one of those companies that gave us a flat $40 per hour rate. They're pretty eager to come out here and work with us. What I am recommending as a next step is to send out household surveys where we would list these options, kind of like what we did with the library, where we explained the issue. Then we had a sheet that said option A, option B, option C. It's told people how much it was going to cost them. And to get a response back from the public to analyze that. If there's a big response from the public that they'd like to have an expanded law enforcement option, then we could look at having an open house where we select an agency that we'd like to work with to make a presentation to the community. And then from there, if there's still an interest, consider referring a measure to the public, asking them to vote on helping us to pay for this service. So what I'm asking for tonight is direction on it. You want to go to the next step of sending out some household surveys. If so, I will try to get an example ready in time for your March work session to look at before we send it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the next step.
We have 2 deputies here for Lane County. I would add, put another option of their 1 deputy. See if people, that's 400,000, that'd be 200,000, and then Oak Ridge 160. But I'd say that they're all expensive, but just
Okay.
another option.
Okay.
And maybe the
Yes.
reminder with the 1 deputy that that's not going to be full coverage.
Right.
People will have to realize it's not. That means we don't have 24-hour coverage.
Yes, right.
Well, I don't mind going forward with the survey, but the timeframe on here, unless there's an outrageous swell, is been involved in some of these, campaigns, and if you don't have a pro group that's gonna take that over, it won't happen. But, again, you gotta start someplace. But I would also like to consider, because I really tried to listen to what the presentations were about, and the one that had the most success, because as we know, it's hard to arrest somebody in the act anyway, because we talked about how somebody will police presence will be on one end of town, and then everybody knows they're all connected. So one of the things that was most effective was the taking of the reports and building the case and looking at people's home video and that sort of stuff. That's not necessarily a patrol function. It's more like a community policing function, more of an investigative kind of thing, because remember, maybe you do, maybe you don't, years ago when things like on and off, but a lot of folks in the audience will remember when, police reports used to be taken by officers. That went away a long time ago, but, and I know you asked for them, you did again, but people have a tendency not to do that. They don't think about it, or they're not home, they're not at a computer, or don't have a smartphone to do that. And so again, arresting somebody with a failure to appear rate is just, they hit the streets before the police are done writing a report. So again, I was trying to listen to what was really effective, and what was really effective, because there's some of these, a handful of criminals that commit like 80% of the crimes because they're good at it and they know where the opportunities are. It's not the onesie twosie, wayward kid that, has trouble going on. So I'd like to investigate an option about that, making the cases, I think he said it was even somebody in Albany, and they tied it all together, and then they made it stick, and they got this person out of the neighborhoods and out of the cities that was doing, wreaking a whole lot of havoc. Second point is, the county, and you probably are more aware of this, Jeremy, than I am, but I don't watch their meetings on video any longer. Not for any reason, but anyway, they just got a bunch of the timber money, and they're gonna deploy, 11 more deputies?
I was gonna ask about that.
So before we start going and asking for money, I think we ought to investigate that, because, sometimes you don't get your share if you're thought to be taken care of. So, and Tim might speak to that if he were here, because that was kind of his point was, why don't we use the system that we have, only beef it up? And that sounds like it's right down the alley of where he was headed.
Yeah.
So I think because of that new thing, and then just, again, what I was hearing about what would be most effective, not just arresting somebody and having them be out on the street again to be, race us home. I'd like to investigate both of those. But I'm not opposed to doing a survey, but I'd like to see it, because I think they can be.
I was gonna ask the same thing. Is it worth a call to the sheriff's office and say,
Yeah, we've had enough people
Yes.
make comments that they, they'd like to have service, the service, but it just to show how costly it is. But what you're saying, he and I sat in on a meeting with the Cresswell sergeant, and he came over. Of course, they've got 4+1, but he said that they do investigate, when you have enough people that they send out and investigate. And so he said that, there's a, like you say, there's a group that's committing all the crimes, and there's a group around them that knows who that group is. And so that they get inside, and the group around them doesn't like the group inside that's committing the crime, because it's looking bad, because little crimes that they're doing. So they do follow up, they do investigate, and they do make progress over there, but we can't afford to have 4+1 or anything like that. And the other thing that really struck me was in talking to the county sheriff was that if they get a call out anywhere around, our guy takes off, and in years past, when we talked about that, when he left our city limits, he went on county payroll versus ours. But here, any place he goes, we're still paying for him. And like you say, if they're getting 11 more and we buy one more, that's really what they're saying. That's 12. So, I think I like to still go ahead and survey just to get the word out to the people that, is this what you want or not? And
But I still
and
think
I
another
have a
option
feeling
is
it's
not
gonna come
necessarily
back
an
not.
officer. It's like a code enforcement type of person that can be
Yeah.
trained, they're not gonna go arrest somebody, but they're gonna go put those pieces together and find out who has the home video and then make that available to the officers that we do already pay for, you know? It's just
No,
an
I-
option that I think might be
That-
more.
that would be
productive
best.
and more
That
affordable.
would be best. I agree with you. That would be best.
And got enough time to build that into a survey if we don't know what the option really is. And that can combine again with the video surveillance thing, you know, public places could play into that as well.
We'll get that back next month. Okay, next is a motion to approve resolution 775, resolution adopting standard operating procedures for processing floodplain development permits. Mr. Cottle?
This is the last task that the Department of Land Conservation and Development is requiring us to complete to maintain our participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. This is a resolution that would adopt standard operating procedures. These standard operating procedures list the steps that staff would take whenever we get a building application where we check the flood, it is in a floodplain area. Also associated with that is the permit that we would have to fill out if we do get something that's in a floodplain. The permit lists the base flood elevation, what the alterations are for documenting purposes.
All standardized price.
All standardized stuff. This is what they sent me and I've tailored it a little bit to what we do.
Any questions?
I wondered, let me take a look but is that initial survey, if it says it's not on a floodplain, it seemed like, does then it stop? There's several pages on this permit application and you know what we found out when we looked at all this, that we've got very, very, very little developable property in the floodplain.
Correct.
And so it's not going to apply to just a minuscule portion of these. I just wondered if, you know, like a flow chart, if it's, no, you're not in a floodplain, does this go away? Or do they have to keep filling out a bunch of stuff? And I wasn't certain.
No, on our building application, it's got a little box. Is it in a floodplain? Yes or no? If I click no,
Then there's no more of this, the rest.
then
of
we
it.
don't even worry about this.
Okay, good. Yeah, this is a lot of process for such a minuscule portion, and I get that they have to standardize, but wow, somebody was busy for a long time.
We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 775, a resolution adopting standard operating procedures for processing floodplain development permits and adopting the Oregon model floodplain development permit.
Second.
Motion made by Gail, seconded by Maureen. Further discussion, questions? Not hearing, not seeing. All those in favor of resolution 775, resolution adopting standard operating procedures for processing floodplain development permits and adopting the Oregon model floodplain development permit, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next up is motion for low-income housing water assistance. Mr. Cottle, that's on page 42.
The Lane County Human Services Department reached out to us, asking us to participate in this program, the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. What this program does is people who sign up with the Lane County Human Services who are below a certain income threshold would have Lane County pay their bill, their water bill for them. There are some administrative requirements that our staff would have to follow. I've run this by our staff and it's not overly burdensome for them. And we believe that this will be an additional benefit at no cost to the city to offer citizens who might needed. So I'm asking for city council approval tonight of this contract.
That's a good thing.
Is
This
this
is
new?
fine.
It's a new program?
I don't know. Do you know the answer to that, Max?
This is a new Lane County program,
It's brand new.
brand new, to be offered to us, not a new, been offered in other places.
You know how it's funded?
I do not.
It's, I think it's funded through federal or state monies.
I saw it, I just wasn't sure whether it was, part of the.
Well, wouldn't this enhance our own program?
You know what your write-off is on water bills? that you lose each year?
Say that again?
Do you know what your write-off is on water bills that you don't collect each year? Due to this kind of stuff, people inability to pay?
Do you know the answer to that, Max?
There are some, because every once in a while I get a phone call, somebody saying that they haven't paid like 3 or 4 months and it's really been bad and this and that. And
Because I thought we had something like this, but I didn't know whether it was water and sewer, but I know that.
we reduced the pricing,
We reduced the
yeah,
pricing.
about 25
People
bucks,
can apply,
but it
but
didn't pay at
won't-
all.
it's not as good as this.
So this will replace that.
No, this will pay the whole bill, as I
No, I
understand.
mean, this will replace the system that you have in place.
Well, this will only pay for water. So they'll still have to pay their sewer bill.
No sewer.
Oh, okay.
Well, besides that, it might be a difference in what they,
Yeah, I couldn't tell what the
Qualification.
income requirements were.
because the income requirements might be different than ours. If ours was, I don't know, if our income requirements are a little bit higher, that would help people kind of in between maybe. So, but like, if it doesn't do sewer, then we still have the sewer issue. So I'm thinking both programs would be good.
It will help. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve a contract with Lane County for the low income household water assistance program and to authorize the city administrator to sign.
Second. Further discussion, it goes back to January. Can we do anything retro on this?
That would be between the people in the program and Lane County.
It's not long for the time.
That's probably when the program started, but
Yeah.
when the people sign up, it's their whatever coverage starts at that point. I wouldn't think they backdate.
It's weird
I don't
for them to
know. I
start
don't
in
really know.
January to June, and then they do a fiscal year, and then they do a half a fiscal year. It seems.
Oh,
It seems like it's going away.
Mr. Mayor, to the earlier question about the funding, it says here, the LIHWA is federally funded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families.
That's really broad. I read that part, but that's.
Take your guess.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Okay, other questions, discussion? Not hearing, not seeing. Motion, all those in favor of motion to approve a contract with Wayne County for the low income household water assistance program and to authorize the city administrator to sign, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next for intergovernmental agreement with the Department of Transportation for the downtown plan. That's on 66.
I'm asking for city council approval tonight of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the code update to our downtown master plan. This is also includes the Lane County of Governments. They are the project managers for this. The monies are grant funded. It flows through LCOG. The only support that the city is required to make is our staff time. There's a little bit of consulting time that will pay to our planners, but it's fully grant funded and LCOG is picking up the tab. They had to redo the procurement for this, which is why I'm bringing it to you tonight. And there's also an updated schedule in here as well, which shows us wrapping up the project by the end of the year.
Good.
Everything else is pretty much the same as when city council first went through this process.
And this dates all the way back to the beginning of the downtown master plan, which has been several years ago, it seems like. So, and this final, the final stage we've been looking for. Any further questions?
But yeah, I
Yes.
did have a question about that because there have been a couple of changes, the things that were determined that, for instance, the roundabout that was part of that plan, I tried to find in there, I think that was included. And then I was just worried about, I was trying to look at the street layouts. I don't know how far this code is gonna go, but I want to make sure there's still some flexibility, that the council is gonna get to see how the code is really gonna implement so that we don't get so overly restricted. We're trying to develop commerce. And for instance, I really want to see that we can still have log trucks go through town. For instance, I know that some people that move here from cities don't like log trucks going through town, but that's the only way. We got
I was
millions
gonna
of
say,
going the wrong way, I'm sure. Or feet up there and
That's life.
I believe I can address those questions. What this code update is going to do is it's not going to address like the infrastructure things like the roundabout, but it's going to implement the changes to the actual development code related to buildings. So it would have some flexibility with housing options, like having some cottage development or accessory dwelling units. So you could have a more housing options throughout the city. And it focuses more on some design things for commercial development within the downtown corridor. And the first group that's going to vet these updates is a code committee.
that's all right. Yeah.
That's going to be made up of core stakeholders. They require business owners, developers, citizens. I think there's a student representative, so they'll get a first pass at that. Then it goes to the planning commission. Well, I believe it's a joint planning commission and city council
I think I
meetings.
saw that
So
in
there'll,
there, yeah.
there'll be multiple touches along the way.
But there's also the designation about the street widths and how many lanes of this and how wide, and that's what I was getting to. The pictures are all really nice and cool looking, like it's a regular city, but we're a rural city. And so that makes it a little bit different sometimes with these consultants that come in from total urban environments and don't understand some of the nuances that our smaller cities have. So I think the street width and development is still part of that design. So I just want to make sure that we don't have that take off on a way that really looks pretty on a drawing, but won't work for us.
But it sounds like if both planning commission and we are in on that, would that give us the opportunity to check that?
Absolutely. These are your code updates.
These are things that we'll have to. approve.
Yeah, it's
So,
probably gonna be about that thick though. That's what I'm worried about.
Our main.
I'm not a planner.
but it has, does it have to,
City
it
plan.
has to be done to complete the downtown master plan, is that? I mean,
This-
that's part of what the plan was intending to do.
This is the first item on the list of tasks in the downtown master plan.
Right, but
Yeah.
Again, things
But if we can,
change and I'd like us to be flexible so that we know we're doing the best for what we want to
right,
ultimately get. And that's not necessarily to restrict development.
Right.
It's to assist.
So-
just in a
so if
good
they
way.
come in with something we feel is too restrictive, we can talk about that or,
Absolutely.
yeah, so we're not just stuck with what they aren't just gonna come in and say, this is how it is. We'll be.
All right, I'll-
Well, even at that, our main streets belong to the county, so whatever has to be done, I would imagine has to be worked through the county too, because whenever they're gonna come do the safe routes to school, that North Shore Boundary Pioneer, where you're talking about for the roundabout, they're gonna widen that, put an island in and stuff like that, and they're aware of the logging trucks going through there. That they wanna have I think they're gonna put a caution light for the kids to cross, but give them an island to get onto in case they need to, but there'll be some work being done on that this summer. But like I say, they're county roads, so we'd have our input and the county would have their input on what we do to the roads too. For ingress, egress and everything, I would imagine. Did we ever, we get a motion on this yet? Hold on, I think you want. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll
I
make,
make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the downtown plan implementation and general code amendments, phase 2 project, and to authorize the city administrator to sign. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a second by Gail. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor of motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the downtown plan implementation and general code amendments, phase 2 project, and to add authorize the city administrator to sign, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? On to 96. Our phase 2 environmental on East Main. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm asking for city council approval tonight of the proposal with BB&A Environmental in the amount of $8,592 to complete the phase 2 environmental assessment for our East Main Street property. The first environmental site assessment that we did indicated that there are likely underground gasoline storage tanks. What the phase 2 environmental will do is they'll come out there and do some geophysical testing to determine the location of the gas tanks. They'll do soil and water testing. They'll bore some holes to conduct that. They'll produce a report, and those steps, once they complete that, will tell us what we need to do to prepare, clean up this property and prepare it for sale. Our procurement code requires 3 quotes for anything over $5,000. I have the other 2 proposals in here, along with the costs associated with that. Also, depending on what they find out there, they may have to do additional work. But for now, I'm recommending this firm based on the criterion of price. Otherwise, they all have very similar approaches.
But you felt like this one was gonna do as much or as well as the others. I mean, you have any reason to think? Product.
No, they have their own trucks, so they can come in here and do their own drilling. They're local. The Omnicon proposal, it listed a bunch of different steps. If we find this, then we might have to do this, if this, but whenever I matched up what they would do for the 3 or 4 boreholes for the geophysical, and I compared that to BB&A was cheaper. And then the other consultant had a much more extensive proposal. I ran this by our realtor as well as our city engineer, and they said that based on what they saw, there was no reason in their opinion to go with anything other than the cheapest one.
Okay, good. Well, we don't want to spend any more money. We have to, that's for sure.
Is there a feeling that they know where that tank is if it's there? I think the people in the past seem to know that there was a gas station there, but I don't know that they knew where. And when I look at this on page 117, the other one that we're not doing, they have 8 boreholes, but they're right along the street, which I would have thought the gas tanks would be off the street. They had a couple by the house. I don't know if that's for asbestos, and there was a warehouse there and But whenever you look at the little boreholes there, the 3 and 4, the one that we're going with, they don't show where they're gonna bore, but right there, that map.
Yeah, so BB&A, they, let's see, they talk about under geophysical survey conducted along Main Street frontage to approximately 25 feet back of curb, which is what the other firm that you're talking about, which is what they showed.
Okay.
So along the Main Street frontage.
On 117.
There we
There you
go.
go. There's, see, right, those are right along the street, so I don't know where tanks are. I had no idea.
So,
My guess would be that fourth one from the right.
That was the old building, and evidently there was a warehouse there at one time.
yeah, that's what I would guess. I wouldn't guess them up front.
I don't-
That store sat too close to the road.
uh,
I don't think those tanks would have been there.
West side,
Huh?
the west side of the.
That's what I was, yeah, it would have been on the west side of that's where they would have been, I'm sure. So the ones out front
Or
are
not too. I don't know if they sold premium. I haven't had it
Anyway.
confirmed if they sold premium.
I just know that's not the one we selected, but I just thought it was on the spots that they were gonna poke holes in the ground.
Yeah, I'm sure, I know, I've been asking around.
Yeah, me too.
Were they?
Tanks.
But the tanks. Okay,
The two gas pumps are right.
yeah, that would make sense. It just wouldn't make sense to me, the tanks would be out in front of the store, but I don't know, maybe. The road was different back then. so.
I like that you went with a different firm than did the phase one, actually. I think that gives some more perspective.
Okay.
Any other questions? This is something that needs to be done for the next step, so we have a motion.
Move to approve the focus phase 2 environmental site assessment scope of work.
Okay.
Proposal with BB&A Environmental.
A second.
Okay. Motion made by Maureen, seconded by Gail. Okay. We have further questions, discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve focus phase 2 environmental site assessment scope of work and cost proposal with BB&A Environmental in the amount of $8,592 and to authorize the city administrator to sign. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Step closer to being out of that. Come on. Look down to 129. The computer doesn't want to move. There it is. There's the reason. Okay, this is with Behan Investment Group. Behan.
And
Behan?
Bond.
Okay, he's my dentist, so
He's my
I just call him Doc.
I think it's banned.
Okay, Mr. Collins.
I'm asking for city council approval tonight of a improvements agreement with the developer that is completing the Sunset Hills subdivision. Whenever city council approved the site review for this subdivision, one of the conditions of approval was to enter into a development agreement, which is presented here. One of the biggest things of this development agreement has to do with another condition of approval, which was to install 3-phase conduits, which was also in the conditions of approval. This was to allow a future reservoir in that area if necessary. The city will be reimbursing the developer in the form of a system development charge credit. We received a cost estimate of $22,375 to install the conduits, which would be the amount of the SDC credit. The development agreement also talks about how they would install stormwater services, sidewalks, and other infrastructure improvements.
There's no wires or cable or inside those conduits right now, just a full tape or something?
That's correct. The lead line.
Okay. And this, the waiver, whatever, has to do with wetland. And I, what do you have, 16 lots?
16.
Okay, and what is it, two or three that's he's working with on that, or do we know?
For wetlands,
Yeah,
that's about two-thirds of those lots, isn't it, Matt?
It's just the far southeast side. So we don't have an exact number of lots here.
okay, so,
But yeah, a portion of them.
but this allows him to start building on the rest of them.
You want me to answer it, Joe?
Go ahead.
So the construction agreement is just for the infrastructure to be able to get to the next stage where they could sell lots.
Okay.
And then there is another thing on there, as you guys can see, regarding the wetland stuff. So this lets them install the infrastructure, water, sewer, street, sidewalk, street lights, everything up into that point, and then begin the rest of the subdivision outside of that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Any questions? Okay, I make a motion to approve the agreement for improvements with Bayham Investment Group LLC and to authorize the mayor to sign. Yeah, we got a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, and Maureen seconded. Further discussion, questions? All those in favor of motion to approve an agreement for improvements with Bayham Investment Group LLC and to authorize the mayor to sign, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I think I finally got his name right. Sounds right to my ear. So. If he's listening, he probably says no. Next up is an exclusive authorization to sale. Mr. Cottle, let's talk about that.
I'm requesting that city council authorize me to terminate our exclusive authorization of sale agreement with Campbell Commercial Real Estate for the sale of 8 North Highland Street. The reason is that the broker representing us on this, Suzanne Kinsley, has indicated that she would like to make an offer on the property in her personal capacity. For that reason, she wishes to terminate the agreement. Once the agreement is terminated, my recommended next steps are to get an appraisal on the property, to have a period of time where any interested member of the public can make an offer on it. Then we would accept offers, hold public hearings, and then vote to approve an offer. And also see that Suzanne is on via Zoom, and in case she has anything that she would like to add.
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I've enjoyed, representing the city. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for the opportunity, and I just, Mark and I think that this would be a great opportunity for our family, so.
Yeah. Any questions for either one? Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the city administrator to terminate the exclusive authorization of sale agreement with Campbell Commercial Real Estate for the sale of 8 North Highland Street.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Not hearing, not seeing. All those in favor of motion to authorize the city administrator to terminate the exclusive authorization of sale agreement with Campbell Commercial Real Estate for the sale of 8 North Highland, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, that went through. Okay.
Whatever.
Okay, number 9 has been, we took that off of there. If it's, I don't know if it's on yours anymore. It was on, I had an old piece of paper. So now we're down to, we finished all of our new business, old business, and everything
We
now.
have a resolution 776.
You're looking at an old agenda.
What's 776?
It's on page 189.
Oh, it isn't on mine. I read that one. Okay, next up is resolution 776, a resolution accepting real property. Mr. Carter, you want to speak to that?
This is a formal a public dedication of a stormwater detention pond associated with the McDougal subdivision. This is a condition of approval for that subdivision. This resolution accepts the donation. I'm scheduled to go to the title office tomorrow and sign the title so that we can accept it.
Any questions? Mr. Baker, what kind of impact is that going to have on public works?
Just a couple times a year, annual maintenance. It'll be already part of the city storm system, so, we have a little bit of control, but this was dedicated to us to be able to do the little bit of vegetation, keep on it.
Okay.
So it's definitely, there's definitely some work, but pretty minimal. We were pretty strict in the beginning stages of the slopes and with the engineer involved on the layout, so that it's really minimal staff time.
That's good to hear. Okay. I did find it in my packet. After all. Oh. Any other questions? I make a motion to approve resolution 776, a resolution accepting a real property donation authorizing the city administrator to administer the acceptance of the real property. Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Gail second. And further discussion, questions? All those in favor of motion to approve resolution 776, a resolution accepting a real property donation authorizing the city administrator to administer the acceptance of the real property, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. We're through that. Now we're up to other business. That's on 192. Okay. Has to do with the community shade tree program. Mr. Powell, you want to speak to this first?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll defer to the committee chairman, Paul O'Regan.
Well, you all got I'm Paul Regan, chairperson of the park committee. I think you all have a memo on what we plan on doing.
You can sit there. Whatever.
What do you want me to do?
You can come up if you want to, or if you want to stay there, that's fine too.
Oh, I think I'll stay here.
Okay.
Okay.
It'll take me all night to get.
All right.
By all means.
So we did come up with a plan. And recommendations for the trees, as well as the planting of the trees. And we came up with several species that we would like to have planted. We don't want somebody coming up and say, I want a barrel cactus over here. We don't want that. So we did pick up different species of trees. And I think we agreed on 17 trees, something like that.
18 total, 17. Looks like.
18 total.
Yep.
The trees that show up on the plan here, that the architect drew out on the street side will come later.
Okay.
Because we want shade in the playground area.
Good.
So we plan on planting them around the playground area. And there's already one tree in there. And so through the tree program donations, somebody can buy a tree. And what we're gonna do is, instead of, we want the landscape company to come in and plant the trees, because for several reasons. It can get there is a process
Mhm.
for planting trees. And I believe that if the landscape architect comes in and we want to group it in 6 trees per planting, so they don't have to come out just to plant one and then next week another one. That's going to get real spendy. So we're going to collect 6 trees, have them come out and plant them. And I know the city has offered to plant the trees, but with this, I feel like we need to get it done correctly. And I do believe, if I'm correct, that if they come out and plant the tree, they guarantee it for you. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's going, might get a little spendy rather than have our maintenance crew do it, but I think that's the best way to go. I don't want the maintenance crew to get involved because they have enough on their plate as it is. And so that's kind of where we're going with that.
Hey, Bob?
Number one, are these deciduous trees? Have wings,
Yeah,
and they're gonna be falling in the fall.
yes, they are.
Okay,
And they're going to be beautiful colors.
right, go on with that. How much is it going to be per tree? Any guesstimate?
In here it said 400 to 600, I believe.
Yeah, that
In the packet, it said 400 to 600, so
Buy the tree or to plant the tree?
All in.
the whole thing.
per tree.
These, I haven't been in these processes. I'm just trying to find out
Okay.
what kind of money we're talking about. I might know somebody who will plant a tree.
Yeah. I think that you're probably going to get probably 2 groups versus 3. I think that you're going to sell out more of the trees than you think. So, but whatever it ends up being, I think it's a good thing. And Public Works will be there to make sure there's no water lines cut or anything like that. Okay, that's good. You can work with the landscaper. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's about
Okay.
it.
Any questions for?
We still may have to tweak the program a little bit as we go. This is brand new for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and I admit, I don't know what I'm doing. So this is kind of an experience for me.
Yeah, okay.
And, but we'll work it out, and I know there's quite a few people who seem interested.
I think we get all the help you can get.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And we can advertise it on the website, of course, you know, and put it in the bridge and stuff, make it available. I think that you may well sell out more trees than the 6 when you initially start off with. I think that there's an interest in it, and I see it happening.
And we're gonna be specific on where to plant.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So, we got all that working.
As long as I get my barrel cactus in there.
Upside down?
Yeah, behind the restroom.
Okay, do we have a motion here?
I move to approve the community safety program with Paul Fisher Park as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Committee.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion, questions? Okay, all those in favor of motion to approve the community shade tree program for Paul Fisher Park as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Good deal. That's gonna be a good thing for all the kids out there playing on the park equipment and everything. Yeah. And next up is appointment of a Parks Committee member.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I touch on this, the applicant that the Parks and Recreation Committee recommended is on via Zoom, Shannon Fassbender. Shannon, I'll turn it over to you for a moment if you'd like to make a statement.
So I'm in my car driving right now, so it might be a little hard to hear and see me. But I'm just really excited to get on this board and help out with the Parks and Rec Committee and put my input in with having kids in this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll turn it back over to the hall.
Not yet, we just gotta, we just need to make a motion? Or is he gonna present it? What's gonna happen here? They've already approved it, it's their thing, so it's for us to approve.
That's correct.
Right, okay. Shannon Fassbender has been recommended by the Parks Recreation Committee to us. With that in mind, I move to appoint Shannon Fassbender to the Parks and Recreation Committee. You have a second?
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further questions?
I work with Shannon and she'll be an excellent addition to this. Parks and Rec Committee.
That's good to hear. Okay. All those in favor of motion to appoint Shannon Fassbender to the Parks and Recreation Committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And we have other updates to the Park and Recreation Committee.
Thank you for hanging out with us, Shannon. Look forward to working with you. I'll be in touch with you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Item C there.
Item C.
Is that Hall Reagan for the Parks and Recreation updates?
I have I have a few. In our last meeting, our committee decided to, I don't have the exact date with me, it's on a Saturday in February. Saturday. My secretary. And to get together and do a walkthrough at Paul Fisher Park so that we can make a list of items that need to be done as far as repairs or improvements in the park. And then when we get done with Paul Fisher, we're going to go over to Rolling Off Park and do the same thing. This will be on a Saturday. I think it's at 9 or 10 o'clock. So we're all going to meet together.
I think I saw that was the 19th. That's this weekend then?
This Saturday.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All righty. I don't, any other public comments or anything at this point? Okay, I don't have anything. So with that in mind, we're adjourned at 8:38.